Okay, anyone who's familiar at all with the all-too-short career of Jon-Erik Hexum knows that this story does not have a happy ending. Still, there is a reason for you to hang on until the end of this video, because the truth about his final act may not be exactly what you think it is. But before I get to all that, just give me a couple of minutes to talk about Jon-Erik and why he was such a special actor. First, we've got to talk about Jon-Erik's first starring role on television. In 1982, he was cast as the time-traveling Phineas Fogg in a really great show called Voyagers. I love this show. Hexum was great, as was his young co-star Mino Pellucci. The plot was fairly simple. Fogg is part of a society of time travelers called Voyagers. And in his case, with the help of a young boy from the present day, he uses a handheld device that looks something like a pocket watch called an Omni to travel throughout time and ensure that history unfolds as we know it. And the show was just fun. Great stories, great chemistry between Hexum and Pellucci. And Hexum, well, he had star power. You could see it in his portrayal of Fogg. This was someone who was going to be big, really big. You know, it seemed like Voyagers was going to be one of those shows that could run for at least a handful of seasons. Unfortunately, the network brainiacs at NBC decided to schedule it against ratings juggernaut 60 Minutes. They call it counter-programming, and I guess at times it makes sense. You know, kids in this case wouldn't want to watch 60 Minutes. They'd want to watch something else. And while that is true, when you play the counter-programming game, extreme patience is required to allow a show to build an audience. And unfortunately for the fans of Voyagers, despite the presence of a time-traveling stopwatch, time turned out to be in short supply for this show, and it was canceled after just one delightful season. Hexum would rebound and star in the TV movie The Making of a Male Model with Joan Collins. Of course, this was during the time when Dynasty was on the air and Collins was hot, hot, hot. The movie did well from a ratings perspective, and Hexum caught the eye of casting directors for a new show that would premiere on CBS called Cover Up. Sorry for the grainy photo, folks, but I like it enough that I thought it was still worth sharing. Man, I wish I'd kept my old TV guides. Ads like this one, well, they're really hard to find with any sort of decent resolution because everyone chucked them after the week had passed. Anyway, in Cover Up, Hexum and his co-star Jennifer O'Neill starred as government agents who use the guise of a male model and a photographer. Ratings were good at the start, and things looked like they were going Hexum's way until a fateful day just a few months in, October of 1984. According to the British newspaper The Sun, Hexum was on the set of Cover Up. He was fidgeting with a prop. The prop he was playing with was a gun with blanks in it. Hexum was becoming increasingly frustrated with the delays that were involved with filming this scene, and he began playing with the gun, spinning the barrel like a game of Russian roulette. In what has been described as a tragic accident, the actor playfully spun the barrel, which still had one blank inside, and placed the gun to the temple of his head and pulled the trigger. The gun discharged a wad of paper which shattered his skull, forcing a bone fragment the size of a small coin into the center of his brain. 6 days later, at age 26, Jon-Erik Hexum was declared brain dead. By the way, this tragic accident is not Jon-Erik's final act. The truth about his final act, a truly noble act indeed, is what occurred afterwards. So here's the real truth, and what happened next is a testament to Hexum's kind and thoughtful spirit. A few years prior to the accident, Jon-Erik made the decision to be an organ donor. He had witnessed a friend's cousin receive a donated liver that saved her young life, and he decided then and there that if ever anything tragic were to happen to him, he would want to do some good on the way out. Hexum's heart was transplanted into the chest of Michael Washington. Washington was a United States war hero, having done a tour of duty during the Vietnam conflict. During his tour, Washington was wounded in action not once, but twice, and received the Bronze Star for valor. Aside from Washington, one of Hexum's kidneys saved the life of a 5-year-old boy, while his skin was grafted onto a 3-year-old child who had suffered horrific burns. Both of the 26-year-old's eyes were donated. One went to a 66-year-old man, while the other was given to a young girl. And beyond the recipients of Hexum's gifts of life, he also brought joy to the countless other family members and friends who worried, hoped, and prayed for a miracle. I know that this is a bit of a bummer video, a sad end to a promising career for sure, but as promised, and thanks to the thoughtful generosity of Jon-Erik Hexum, the story ends on a positive note. Lives saved. Lives made better because Jon-Erik had the foresight to think about others in the midst of what had to be a whirlwind ride of fame and fortune. And that is the truth about Jon-Erik Hexum's final act. Anyway, that's it. Do you remember Jon-Erik Hexum? And if so, did you like Voyagers or Cover Up better? Cover Up was okay, but for me, it's an easy pick to go with Voyagers. Still, I'm bummed that the show only ran for one season. Think about it. It's possible if the show hadn't been canceled, that Jon-Erik would never have been on the set that day and made that tragic mistake. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And while you're at it, I would love a thumbs up, and I would be honored if you would consider subscribing to my channel. I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.